Hey guys, it's Chip Townsend back with Chip Live. I have a super special guest that I'm excited about today. This is retired U.S. Air Force Lieutenant Colonel Mr. Coy Kinsey. Mr. Coy, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thanks for having me.
Hanging out, yeah. So, a little bit about you and your background. So you served in the U.S. Air Force. Tell me a little bit about that. What got you started in the Air Force? What attracted you to piloting and that sort of thing?
Right, that's actually two separate questions. I knew that I wanted to be in the Air Force before I knew I wanted to be a pilot, which is a little bit backwards. Most people that want to be pilots, they decide early on that they want to be a pilot, and then they find a way to do it. But my experience was a little bit different. When I was 10, my grandfather passed away. My mom's dad passed away, and my uncle was an Air Force officer, and so and my grandfather was a veteran. So whenever he showed up for the funeral, he showed up in his uniform, and when he showed up, everyone just kind of fell into place. He just walked in, the room calmed down. Everybody looked at him for solutions, and I knew. At that point, I said, I want to be that guy.
Right.
And so in my 10-year-old brain, I put those two things together. Him in an Air Force uniform and him being the guy to go to. So I knew then that I wanted to be an officer in the Air Force.
Right.
And then so I eventually enlisted in the Air Force.
Right.
Did that for 4 years, and during that time, I was blessed to have the opportunity to work with pilots and specifically F-15 pilots, and I had an opportunity to fly in the backseat of an F-15D, which is a two-seat trainer.
Wow.
And from the very first time that pilot pushed up the throttles and let go of the brakes, I knew that that's what I wanted to do for the rest of my life. So
what an exhilarating sensation, right?
It was unbelievable,
right?
And so from there, eventually got my commission and joined the Air Force and flew C-130s for about 15 years.
Wow.
Flew the C-130, and so
cool.
Recently
number
retired.
one, thank you for that. That's huge, man.
My pleasure.
Service to our country is a massively important thing, and it's always appreciate that, because one of my dreams was being in the military, but I have a prosthetic eye, so they looked at me and said, you're not good enough. So I had to find a different route. So with that said, you said something that was really powerful that grabbed me. This idea that your uncle walked in uniform and everything kind of fell into place and got peaceful. It's interesting because I talked to the students about that a lot, especially in black belt testing prep, about being the person that walks into the room that brings that breath of fresh air.
Absolutely.
Right? We call that being the inspiration, inspire, aspire, breathe life into the room. And so it was really cool when you said that, because that's kind of in essence what happened. But as a 10-year-old kid, you picked up on that.
Yes,
and it gave you I guess, an idea of where you wanted to head. And that's really so powerful when you have somebody that's put together. They dress well in uniform, they're sharp, articulate. That's so powerful and so helpful in any situation. So that was really cool. So what are some of the challenges you faced? And I also think it's super cool, and I don't know if people realize this, you mentioned it, but most people say, I want to be a pilot, and then they go that route. You kind of went a different route and then transitioned into pilot. So you enlisted first and then commissioned, and so that's kind of different. Tell me just a little bit about that, what that process was like, and then some of the challenges maybe you faced there.
Absolutely. So I actually joined ROTC right out of high school.
Right.
And went to college, and that didn't work out. The nice people at Angelo State University very politely asked me to leave, and so I did. And that's why I enlisted. Just a different path. Wasn't quite mature enough. Wasn't quite ready for the college route. So did my 4 years as an enlisted guy, as an intelligence specialist. Great job. Absolutely loved it. But at that point I knew I wanted to fly. So applied for every commissioning program the Air Force has. Was turned down by every single one of them. So then separated and went to Texas State University, where I eventually got my degree, and knew at that point, still knew that I wanted to be a pilot.
Right.
It was not looking promising for me, just because there's a whole pilot selection method that they go through, and my scores were relatively low.
Right.
But fortunately, my GPA was high enough, and my commander's ranking was high enough that it kind of overshadowed that. So I was able to get a pilot slot. and then went to pilot training from there. It was a challenging process,
Right.
and one that I wasn't sure was going to be successful, but ultimately it ended up working out.
That is fantastic. So guys, I don't know if you caught that. He knew where he wanted to go, and even through some down times, getting turned down for this, turned down for that, and things not looking bright, he just kept chugging along, right?
Absolutely.
He stayed focused on the goal, right?
Absolutely.
And that is so huge. So many times we have a goal, run into a bump, and we turn and go the other way.
Yes, sir.
And it's like this little meme I saw one time of this guy digging, and there's like a diamond like 6 inches through the dirt, and he stops and he walks away, and you're like, you never know when you're like a foot away from that diamond, right?
Absolutely.
So powerful stuff. So what is it, and this is kind of two different questions, I guess. You served in the military for a full career, and so it could be focused on military, but it could be focused just on piloting. What did you love about what you did? So, serving, we'll start with serving in the military. What did you love about being in the military, or was there something that you loved about it?
It's the people. It's the relationships you build with people, and
Right.
and getting to interact with them day in and day out. And as a younger officer, it's really just about building relationships in the same ranks that you're in. You're not put in any of those formal leadership roles at that point. So it's a lot of informal leadership. You work hard to make sure that you show up every day ready to give your best, and when you do that, you're setting an example for other people, and people will follow that example.
Absolutely.
And then once once I advanced in my career a little bit and started getting put into those formal leadership positions, a lot of honestly the fun is solving problems. People bring you problems, and you have that authority to make those decisions. And really the best part is whenever you just empower the people that work for you to make those decisions themselves. And once you see that, yes, you have that authority, you have that ability to make those decisions, and you see that switch flip in them, it's a lot of fun.
Right. So you hit on something, we call it influence versus authority. So many times you get into a position, like for me in the martial arts industry, it's like, it's rank. Oh, that guy has so many stripes on his belt or whatever. And we tell our students all the time, it's not the belt, it's not the stripes, it's not the letters after the name, it's the character.
Absolutely.
It's the person that you are, which becomes really the influence. And it was fun that you said that. It was not, you gained the position of authority, but it wasn't the authority that was exciting, it was being able to influence and empower the people to make their decisions, right?
Definitely.
Awesome, beautiful stuff, man. All right, guys, so now, Coy, you super busy, and one of the things that I loved about you from the get-go and meeting you is not long after we met, you stepped onto the mat, and you were still finishing out your career, and so you were on the mat and then gone, and then on the mat and then gone.
Right.
And I love that because you never stopped. And even though you would be consistent for a while, and then you would have to like leave, go to a training, or the things that you were doing with the military, you just didn't stop, man. So you were super busy. So what kept you coming back? Why did you add martial arts to an already busy plate? You have a beautiful family, wife, 2 amazing kids, and they're on the mat as well. But why'd you put that on your plate, and what kept you sticking to it?
Well, I got tired of being a spectator. I'd come to class and I'd watch the kids, and I'm like, that looks like a lot of fun.
Right.
And it's like anybody growing up. I mean, goodness, I'm of that age where Karate Kid came out when I was a kid. So I always thought, wow, that would be really cool. And but just the town I grew up in, as far as I knew, didn't have there were no opportunities like that. So it just I grew up never had that opportunity, and was like, well, I'm an adult now. That's not something that I'm ever going to do. And then sure enough, I come here and I watch my kids in Little Dragons, and then as they've grown up, and then hang around and see an adult class, you're like, wow, there's a lot of adults doing this.
Right.
So this is something that I can
Absolutely.
do. So that was really the motivation. I was tired of being a spectator.
That's a great answer. I got tired of watching and decided to go, right? So I wanted to kind of ask this. So as a very high-level professional with a high-level career, kind of putting you in an awkward position here, but you made the comment, you kind of looked at it and went, yeah, I'm an adult, don't really need this. But as you watched it, you saw other adults. What is it? Has it done anything for you as a person, or how do you feel about that aspect of it? Because here's the reason I ask. Many years ago, one of my black belts that came up under us and with us, an amazing friend, was an orthopedic surgeon. He actually graduated from Harvard University. His undergraduate, and went to, I believe, the University of Houston for medical school. Very high level guy. And I just remember him coming in, and I don't want to taint your answer, but you know, him being like, man, I drove by this place for years and was always curious.
Mm-hmm.
And he stopped, he comes in, signs up his kids, and like you, shortly after, comes onto the mat, has trains with us for years. But I remember him saying, man, I love being able to come in and just kind of put everything behind me and let someone else make the decisions for an hour and just focus on me and enjoy my time, you know? And so, anyway, what do you think about that?
Well, so it in the early, in my when I first started coming here, it was I was in a position where I was making a lot of decisions. I was, I was absolutely driving the bus when at work, and it was nice just to come here and really just not have to be in charge. You know,
right.
it honestly, it reminded me a lot of early in my career where you show up and people tell you where to stand and tell you what to do and tell you how to dress and tell you,
right.
And so that part of it definitely, but at the same time it gave me a lot of confidence to show up and to do the things that we do here, things that I didn't know that I could do.
Right.
And that was a big part of it
Awesome.
for me.
Well, I didn't mean to put you on the spot, but I think it's always nice to hear that, because especially for people out there that have seen it, heard about it, might be interested, but they're like, yeah, it's not for me. What would I ever get out of that? It's just so awesome, because all the way from 3-4-year-old little guys to 7 years old, people always say, I got so much more out of it than what I thought in the beginning. Right. So just kind of fun to hear that.
Absolutely.
So as a professional, now transitioning your career into the commercial airline side, as a pilot, and congratulations on
Thanks.
your upcoming job, by the way.
Thanks.
What kind of encouragement would you have for somebody that's in a similar situation to you, that's a professional, that's got a busy life? You're talking to them and they say, yeah, man, I need to lose some weight or get in shape or whatever it is. I'm interested in martial arts, but after that, what would you say to them to encourage them?
So probably one of the stumbling blocks for me initially was, when I was thinking about coming on the mat, it was, gosh, I'm going to be kind of embarrassed. I'm going to show up. I'm going to stand there. They're going to ask me to kick or punch, and it's just not going to, I'm not going to be good at it. Well, you don't have to be good at it at first. I mean, that's the
awesome.
And nobody here ever made me feel like that I wasn't doing a good job. And that's the other part of it too. You show up and everyone is encouraging. Everyone. It's everyone is there to make sure that you succeed. And that's huge. I mean, you don't find a lot of places like that in your life where you show up and every single person to a person is there to make sure that you are successful. Right. And that's a great feeling whenever you show up.
Awesome. Well, that's beautiful. Nothing else to say about that, man. So, what's the best piece of advice you're willing to share with us that you feel like you ever got? I know that's a hard one to answer, but maybe something that stood out in your training, in your life, somewhere.
So it's actually a little bit cliche, but when I first got my commission, my uncle told me to make sure that I listen to my NCOs, my non-commissioned officers. Right. And the reason for that is they've been around and they know what they're doing. So the way that I would relay that to anybody else in the civilian world is, if you were put in a formal leadership position, if you were put in charge of people, make sure that you seek out and find those people who have done the job before. Right. Talk to them. Make sure that you understand the dynamics of the group. Make sure you understand the dynamics of the job before you step in and start making changes. And that's really what that came down to. And it was absolutely the best piece of advice I've ever gotten.
That's powerful, guys. That's huge stuff right there. All right, so I know you've probably read something that you'd be possibly willing to recommend. So what's a book you might recommend to somebody, something that you felt was influential to you, or maybe even something you're reading currently that's moving for you right now?
Sure.
What would you say?
So there's a book called The Passing of the Night. It's a little bit older book. It was written by a man named Brigadier General Robinson Reisner. He was a prisoner of war in Vietnam for 7.5 years.
Wow.
So it is a story of exceptional leadership under some of the most extreme conditions that you could possibly imagine. Wow. It was an extremely powerful book. It's one that I would say most Air Force officers have probably read at some
right.
point in their career.
Very cool.
And it was it's really eye-opening because, you know, I mean, we're currently in a generation of military folks that have been fighting war for, I mean, honestly, 2 generations now.
Right.
I mean, you have folks that are going to fight the exact same battles that their parents fought. So it's, and so that experience is different for every single person who serves. But it's eye-opening to look back at what the previous generation experienced during the Vietnam conflict, and that was an extremely powerful book.
Wow, cool. I'm going to put it on my list because I actually hadn't heard of that one. So it's The Passing of the Night.
The Passing of the Night.
Passing in the Night?
Passing of the Night.
Oh, the Night. Gotcha.
Yes,
Sorry. Awesome. So anything else you want to share with the people out there, Mr. Coy?
If you've ever thought about putting on a martial arts uniform and giving that a shot, even if it was when you were a kid and you're an adult now and you don't think it's something that you could possibly do, I'd encourage you to do it. Whether it's a team chip or somewhere else, I would definitely encourage it. It's a lot of fun, yeah, I'm absolutely glad that I've started this journey, and it's one that I'm certainly going to continue.
Awesome, and I like what he said too. Whether it's teamship or not, that's not what this is about. We're just passionate about martial arts, and I think what it can do to help and empower people. So, man, what a fantastic time I've had with you, and I learned a lot about you too. I got more questions now. So, all right, guys, y'all go have an amazing day. Thanks so much, Mr. Coy. Thanks for your service. Thanks for your time today, and all the things that you've done for us indirectly that a lot of us just take for granted, man. So,
Thanks for having me.
You guys go have a great day.